Good morning. Welcome to the Las Cruces Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Jennifer Trantham, and I am one of the board members, and this morning I am going to do the announcements. We don't have many. I know you can read these on the back, so I'm just going to hit the high points for you this morning. The General Assembly for this summer, for this year rather, is this summer in June, the 18th through the 22nd. And the church can have up to 4 delegates. And if you want to see Jan Thompson for some more information, we'd love to have you represent. I have not gotten to attend one of these as an adult, but when I was a child, I got to follow my parents to the General Assembly. It was a very neat event. Maybe one day I'll do it as an adult. Anyway, the Truth or Consequences Covenant Group is going to get started. And that Sam Palanuk, I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly. Perfect, wonderful. He is starting a group for Truth or Consequences, and if you're interested, please see him. The information is again on the back of your order of service. Snowbirds, they're meeting on Thursdays, and if you would like to join them, the information is on the back. You can see Margaret, and she'll give you some information. They meet in the library on Thursdays, I believe, or next Thursday anyway. Change for Change is going to to the Dharma Horse Equine Sanctuary. So when we give during the offertory, if you'll please give generously, it's appreciated. And I would like to invite everybody to please put their phone in worship mode so that we can enjoy the service uninterrupted. And I hope you guys enjoy this beautiful day. Welcome.
I think it is time for you all, now that you've sat down, to stand up so we can sing together our opening, what we're calling our gathering song. It's number 38. This, for many years, seemed like to be the theme song for Unitarian Universalist congregations. So it's been a long time since I've sung it. So anyway, if you'd stand as you're willing and able.
Good morning again. I'm Carol. I'm on the board and a member of the membership committee, so let me know if you have any questions. We'd like to welcome everyone to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. We'd like to welcome those in the sanctuary and those joining us on YouTube. Our service leader today is Reverend Rod, the famous Reverend Rod. Our guest director of music, we'd like to welcome Rich. Thank goodness. You know, it's true genius when he makes piano playing look so easy. It's not. Kelly Ingram is the Director of Children's Education, RE, but they are having a full-time program over in the RE room today. We're still going to have a time for all ages, though, because it's not just for children. Our administrators, Nancy Zacarias. Thank you to Jillian and Diane Lane for the beautiful table. And I just happened to match. I didn't do this on purpose. Thank you to our greeters today, Susan West, Tom Packard, and Greg White. If you'd like to be a greeter sometime, talk to Mark Sacontra. Are you here, Mark? Yeah. And Rich is taking over as choir director until we come up with a new director of music, so it may take a while, huh? Thank you to Mike for streaming technology, to Claire for audio, and Elwin on the camera. Hospitality this time is by the Richens Covenant group, so be sure to join them right down the breezeway after church. And thank you to Jennifer for our announcements. I'd like to remind you that our UU church is one without dogma. They're not going to tell you what to wear, who to believe, what to believe, who to marry. Those are all things that we figure you're intelligent enough to figure it out. We're what's called a covenant-based church. That means we agree to live in relationship with each other according to the principles of our church and the values of our congregation and our covenant of right relationships, or respectful relationships. We believe in freedom of religion. We embrace diversity in all of its forms. Everyone who abides by our principles and values is welcome here. And you can learn more about our church at the website, uuchurchlc.org. And a special bonus, we're starting to have a group right in the kitchen outside here on the right. After church, if you have any questions or you want to just visit with someone, they're going to be telling you more about our church and taking care of anything you want to know, and maybe you'll want to join us. So I'll remind you to please join us after church down the passageway here. Okay. Our chalice. Time for our chalice. You want to light our chalice? Okay. Chalice is one of the things that UU churches around the world all share. So it's really nice when you go to another UU church to see them lighting a chalice and having this. But as we kindle this flame, may it spark in each of us a connection and a commitment to this living tradition and to each other. That's by Cynthia Landrum, and she is, there are a lot of things that I referred to Cynthia Landrum. It just so happened I went to GA when it was in Spokane. Afterwards, with my grandchild, we're waiting to ride the Greyhound back across Washington. We sat next to a lady, and I got to chatting with her, and her name was Cynthia Landrum. So I said, I'm often mentioning you in church. Thank you.
Do you want to do visitors?
Time for opening words, that comes.
It's part of the
part of that.
welcoming.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. I will give you the
And
microphone.
you're going to turn it on for me, good.
It is on.
If you're visiting with us, we'd like to know. We'd like to visit you. Thank you, Claire. We also have visitors cards on the back of the chairs. If you haven't filled one of those out, be sure to do it, and you'll start getting all the information you want about our church. If you are a visitor, I forgot a microphone. If you're a visitor, we'd like to get to know you. If you'd tell us your name and what brought you to Las Cruces, we'd sure like to hear from you. Do we have any visitors in the sanctuary? Thank you. I'll be right there.
Hi, I'm Cindy. I'm from the San Antonio, Texas area, and I'm here visiting my friend, helping her with a dog rescue garage sale. And I wanted to check out the UU service here.
And my name is Melissa, and this is my best friend, and I'm hoping she'll move here. And this is part of the reason I'm here with her, because
If you move here, you'll love this church. So I'll come around. Okay. You don't have to.
So I'm Janet Thompson, and I know some people here. I used to come to church here in the 70s. It's been a long time. And I'm here with my dad, James Bassler. It's nice seeing some of you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark. I just moved here recently from Washington, D.C. Thanks.
Any other visitors? Well, welcome. And if you have any questions, be sure to join the group over by the little kitchen out there, or ask someone that has a membership badge, or ask anybody.
My opening words have been adapted from Robert Fulghum. I believe that imagination is stronger than knowledge, that myth is more potent than history. I believe that dreams are more powerful than facts, that hope always triumphs over experience, that laughter is the only cure for grief, and I believe that love is stronger than death. Thus it is that we come together to worship, to share, to celebrate. Welcome to this celebration of life. I would invite you to stand again and say together the covenant and then sing the doxology in English and in Spanish. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another.
We always have our time for all ages because we love having children in the sanctuary. But Kelly, our Director of Religious Education, is having a special event over in the RE room today. But you're welcome to go, but you'd miss the service, so better not do that. It just so happens that we were talking, Reverend Rod decided to talk about Robert Fulghum. I went to a conference many years ago in Colorado when I was teaching, and happened to get an autographed copy of his book, and I heard him speak. So I love all of his stuff. For all ages, one of his books is all about rules, and that's what we're talking about. I will just read them because there are no pictures, sorry. Rule number 1, play fair. By the way, the book is called All I Ever Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. So these are the things he learned in the sandbox, he said, in kindergarten. Number 2, don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your own mess. Good rules for life. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and think some. Draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work every day some. Take a nap every afternoon. When you go out into the world, watch for traffic. Hold hands and stick together. And remember, the Dick and Jane books, and the first word that you learned, the biggest word of all was look. And it's still true, no matter how old you are. When you go out into the world, it's best to hold hands and stick together. Good rules for life. Okay. It's time for the mic again. Okay, thanks. One of the things that we do in this church is have joys, sorrows, and milestones. It's each other in community. At these challenging times, it's crucial that we make attempts to stay connected to one another. So if you have a joy, a concern, or a milestone, or a sorrow that you'd like to share with the congregation this morning, please raise your hand and I will bring the mic to you. State your name and what's on your heart. Just remember, this is not a time for announcements or politics. Are there any joys, concerns, or sorrows? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jane Ash, and my joy today is that on Tuesday, our city council passed a set of development codes called Realize Las Cruces. And one of the great joys was that our very own, very articulate Claire Neal Wallace stood up in public comment in support of this. And that led me to another joy, and that was the joy of remembering that Sandy Barmacue and Ann Knowles started Peace Village Camp for Kids, which took place over a decade of years, and in which Claire first learned to work to do the things that are good for all, the common good, all human beings. And that led me to think, in return, about my joy that the chair of the Social Justice Committee of this church, David Rice, was there and spoke in support of this very important set of codes that is going to make it better for small businesses and people who need affordable housing and figuring out a way to house the homeless.
Thank you, Dave and Claire.
Good morning, I'm Dave Steele, and I have a joy and a sorrow concern that I want to share this morning. My joy is that after 40 some odd years of being nuns, N-O-N-E-S, Eileen and I discovered Unitarian Universalism. And the reason that that is a joy is that this is a religious tradition that believes in the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. It's a religious tradition that believes in plurality, in equality, in equity, in justice. And it believes in the things that makes this world a place that's livable and a country that is a good country. Okay, my concern is, I'm sorry, this is politics. My concern is that we are in the process of watching our democracy be dismantled brick by brick by the current administration. This is an administration that doesn't share our values. It mocks our values. It denigrates, it tries to denigrate our values by saying, DEI is what is the root of all the problems that we have. And I'd just like to make a plea. I know that people are scared. People are anxious. I'm scared. I'm anxious about what the future has in store for us. And I know that a lot of people have decided it's time to sort of check out, give yourself a break, not pay attention to what's going on. And I understand that, I get that, I have that impulse myself. But that is the very thing that this current administration would like us to do. It would like us to disengage. It would like for us not to be aware of what's going on. And I'll just close by pointing out that our president, Sophia Bettencourt, on the January 23rd, put out a plea to all Unitarian Universalists to be strong, to be brave, and to take action. And I encourage you, if you haven't seen the letter that she sent to us on the January 23rd, go to the UUA website and read it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm not sure how to follow that, but I do have a joy. Closer? Okay. I do have a joy after hosting and attending circle dinners this week. I can't think of a more beautiful way of getting to know people in this church, in community, and I want to thank everyone for that.
If you don't know much about circle suppers, the membership committee is organizing this 3 or 4 times a year. So if you missed out this time, do it again next time. You'll get an email.
I have a joy. Spring is coming, and I had 3 daffodil flowers in my backyard a couple days ago. So hope springs eternal, right?
In the choir? Okay. My shoes are too noisy. My tap shoes.
Hi, my name is Sandra Barbecue. I think both Joyce and Saros want to thank all of the people that signed the petition. We're up over 300 signatures at this point. Yeah. I will be presenting it to the property manager and the landlord this week, and hopefully I'll get an extension. I got designated as a degree-seeking student at the university. It is so exciting. It is the best thing happening in my life. These classes are great. I will be looking for a house. This will qualify me for housing at the university. So we'll be moving over there soon. On March 5th, I'm going to be interviewed on the radio on KTEL, and the purpose is to share my story, but more importantly, there are 3 bills now pending in the state legislature which hope to draw attention to and get support for. This is a real important issue, as since all the publicity with what has been happening with me, people walk up and share their stories. And we need to do something. This is a horrible situation in this town. And so hopefully these new bills will help to alleviate it. The bills that were passed by our city right now should also, not in time to help me, but meanwhile, I'll be getting a degree when I'm 90.
Thank you. Good morning, church. My name is Haney. Yesterday, I spoke with my sister, who happens to be my twin, only 4 years, 1 week, and 1 day later. A friend of hers they've been getting in trouble together from the time they were about 5, and maintained this friendship. Norma Jean's the baby, so she's 78. Shirley just up and died, and it really hit our family hard because she has been considered a member of that family for a very long time.
So sorry.
Hi, I'm Karen Hall. I'm a breast cancer survivor. I'm 1 year clear, 1 year out from surgery. But I don't know if a lot of people know this. I didn't know it. Genetic testing is available in the state of New Mexico for free if you are a resident. If you have children, male or female, and they live here in the state, they can go to their doctor and have a genetic panel ordered. UNM will then have a genetic counselor, I guess is what you'd call them, talk to you personally. My daughter's 41, she has 2 children, and she has the same marker for breast cancer and ovarian cancer that I have. So she's now facing choices with some wonderful people, because I've already blazed the path for her. So I know all the right doctors. And she's got some choices to make. My 19-year-old granddaughter just had her genetic testing done. We don't have that back yet. My sister had hers done. My brother had his done. My son should have his done, because you can also find markers for colon cancer as well. So it's out there. It's available. Ask your doctor.
I'm a survivor too. I'm a 20-year survivor now. Any other announcements?
Hi, I'm Elaine Martinez, and I happen to work for the city. I'm on the other side of the counter in development. And one of the things that I heard yesterday, as a matter of fact, is that although we passed realized Las Cruces, it has a 30-day period for when it can be repealed. And there's already folks who are there against it. So I hold that as a concern for all of us.
I invite you now into a period of quiet for reflection, repose, meditation, and prayer. And in the spirit of the rules for living, I give you this familiar admonition from Edward Everett Hale. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. With the sounds of our community all around us, let us enter into the silence. So be it. Blessed be, Ashe, and Amen. Another of my favorite hymns is our next one up. 108, if you have a hymnal, the words will be on the screens. My life flows on in endless song. I'm going to ask you to stand again because it's much easier to sing. And since we're talking about singing, I think that makes a good sense. Rich. I didn't know how appropriate that song was going to be. Well, this turns out to be a very much Fulgham kind of Sunday, because I'm going to share from one of his other books. Literally, it was on fire when I lay down on it, which doesn't make sense unless you read the first part, which I'm not going to do. But this is one of the parts of that book. What I am about to say fits somewhere between the Ten Commandments and Murphy's Law. God, you will recall, invited old Moses up on a tall mountain out in the desert and handed him a couple of solid stone memos with some powerful words on them, commandments. God didn't say, here are some pretty good ideas, see what you think. Commandments. Do it or take the consequences. Murphy, at the other extreme, was the ultimate good-humored human cynic who said that no matter what you do, it probably will not come out good anyway. Some people think Murphy was an optimist. As a middle ground, I offer Fulgham's recommendations, items not touched on by God or Murphy, really, and neither as ironclad as the first 10 or as despairing as the endless variations on Murphy. Note that there are only 9 in my list. I'm working on the 10th or 11th for that matter. Number 1, buy lemonade from any kid who's selling. 2, anytime you can vote on anything, vote. 3rd, attend the 25th reunion of your high school class. For most of us, I think that would be the 50th. 4, choose having time over having money. 5th, always take the scenic route. 6th, give at least something to any beggar who asks. 7th, and give money to all street musicians. Right? Number 8, always be someone's Valentine. And 9th, when the circus comes to town, be there. Redeem us, please.
You who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's help did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they fix, the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, just look at them and sigh. Can die. Teach your parents well, their children tell, will slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they fix, the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why, you would cry, you just look at them and sigh, and know they love you.
Rules for living. We all have them. We've all heard that there are really only 2 basic rules of living: don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. I don't really believe that, that nothing is important. Don't worry, be happy. Anyone who knows me knows I don't believe that. I probably more sweat all the stuff and make even the small stuff big stuff. But sometimes it's valuable to try to remember this rule when I get overwhelmed with minutia. And I have been known to give that advice to others who are overwhelmed. Rules for living. We all have them. I want to offer another rule that I have been most recently reminded of. Life is uncertain. Eat your dessert first. Maybe that's how I got in the shape I'm in. But usually I don't take that rule quite that literally. What it means is if you put off doing what is really important to you, that which could really make you happy and fulfilled because there's so many other things that you ought to do, you may never get around to doing what you need to do to feel that your life has had any real meaning. So, don't take the dessert out of your spiritual or psychological diet. But these are not my rules for living. These are more bonuses in addition to Fulgham's recommendations. Those are some additions to the 5 rules for living I plan to offer. Rules for living. We all have them. Sometimes we're aware of them, sometimes we're not. Still, they are the rules we live by. It's what our parents tried to teach us and what we as parents and grandparents tried to teach. And if we're lucky, they're also what our kids tried to teach us. Sometimes we teach them verbally, most times not. I think we've all experienced the truth of this bonus rule for living. What you do speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. Rules for living. This reminds me of Kurt Vonnegut's Ware lecture in 1986 at our General Assembly. Kurt Vonnegut spent about an hour with stories and aphorisms, and he kept saying after each one, "This is not my Ware lecture yet." And then he'd go to another story. It took an hour for that and about 20 minutes for the actual lecture. So now I will offer you 5 rules for living that I try to live by, though not always successfully. By the way, I found that this was much harder to verbalize than I thought. And they may be easier to understand from observation than from telling, but I'm still going to try to verbalize them because that's what they pay me for. But you may want to let your mind or your soul explore these rules for yourself. Rule number 1, show up in your life. We've all known people who seem like they're not all there. And don't be offended, I'm not talking about the mentally handicapped or mentally ill. I'm talking about those people who look right through you. Not only does that say that you're not there, it also says that they're not there either. Or the people who aren't there because they're looking for something else. before they can be satisfied. Just as soon as I get that new job, new car, or new spouse, then I'll be satisfied. Or people who hide, people who are afraid of making mistakes. They don't want to have to take the blame for anything, so they get others to make the decisions for them. I think there are probably two parts to this rule. One, showing up in your life means bloom where you're planted. Get as much out of who you are, where you are now, to actually be with the people you are with, to offer all of yourself, to show up. The second part, showing up in your life, means not abdicating your power. You may not always be right. None of us is. And remember, all decisions are made with incomplete data. Still, we all want to interact with real, authentic people, even with those who make mistakes. The same is true in a church setting. Showing up here means being who you are, not wearing a mask or acting a part. Showing up here means being willing to make mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. We all make mistakes, even me. Nor can we meet everyone's expectations of us. In fact, if you aren't making mistakes and only doing what's expected of you, you're probably not trying new things. You're probably not making any changes. You're probably not taking any risks. At the same time, this doesn't mean that not taking responsibility for your mistakes or not taking responsibility for your actions. It means acknowledging your mistakes, especially if you've hurt someone. It means seeking forgiveness and offering forgiveness. It means making amends and then moving on. Showing up is how you become part of a community, a church community. So my rule number one is show up in your life. Maybe that could be one of your rules too. Rule number two, speak the truth in love. There is a biblical admonition, let your yea be yea and your nay, nay. I'm not just talking about not lying. If you show up in your life, if you are authentic, people expect you to be honest with them in your interactions. Speaking the truth means telling the truth as you know it, remembering that there is objective truth, what you know because you've observed or experienced it. But that, of course, still is not really an absolute, if you remember the story of the blind men and the elephant. Then there's subjective truth, what you have concluded or reasoned or intuited, often the results of feelings that it has evoked. Speaking the truth means telling the truth as you know it. Then there is the in love part of this rule. Speaking the truth in love means being honest kindly. Speaking the truth maybe in small doses. Speaking the truth in loving words. Speaking the truth by identifying it as from your own feelings. Speaking the truth in love means paying attention to the timing. When I was coaching young children at a meet and they came in last, the hug was what was needed, not how to change the stroke or whatever. Speaking the truth in love means not assuming that the person you're telling it to is strong, so they can take it. Most of us are very vulnerable to criticism. One of the things I am most ashamed of was an unkind, demeaning criticism of a service. Speaking the truth in love must usually wait for an invitation. The listener must be ready to hear it. And remember that admitting that we are wrong is very hard for all of us. Whether we're the receiver of the truth or the teller of the truth, admitting that we are wrong is very, very hard for all of us. So don't expect that speaking the truth means the person has to agree with you. In fact, remember that a person doesn't have to agree with you in order for you to believe that they've heard you. An awful lot of arguments go on and on because we equate being heard with being agreed with. It's impossible, or read my own writing. It is possible to be heard and still not be agreed with. You can take my word for that. In church life, speaking the truth in love means regularly asking yourself 3 questions before you speak the truth. Is it true? Is it kind? Will it help? 3 questions to ask before offering your truth, even in love. Is it true? Well, that may mean you need to do some checking on your information. Is it kind? Being in a church community is all about relationships. Relationships are built on kindness as well as honesty. And will it help? Will it help? If it won't help in that situation, if it won't help the other person, if it won't help the relationships of this beloved community, then it is not worth speaking the truth, even in love. So, my rule number 2 is speak the truth in love. Maybe that could be one of your rules as well. Rule number 3, be yourself. Like, who else am I going to be? Well, most of our lives are spent trying to figure that out. Who am I? Our whole childhood and teen years seem to be taken up with it, whether we're conscious of it or not. I remember deciding the way to cope with high school was to be funny, mostly self-deprecating humor to cope with my nerdiness. When I went to college, I consciously left that behind, replacing it with something that seemed right at the time. Somewhere in our trying to discover who we are, we decide, this is it, this is who I am, and we lock it in. This is me. Then we're stuck with it, because to change is wishy-washy, which is even worse. But change we do. So part of being oneself is acknowledging the changes. So many of us, if not all of us, have to keep trying to figure out who we are now. So when someone says, be yourself, we truthfully have to ask, which self? It's one of the things I like about the Myers-Briggs type indicator as a description of who we are. I had the board do that at our board retreat in January, and I found it quite interesting. They're almost all introverts. Interesting. Anyway, the MBTI asks a person to respond by answering questions with, what do I prefer right now? Not what do I think I should prefer, or what does he or she think I should prefer, or what do I actually prefer? It's why I often use the MBTI for couples coming to me to get married. Maybe what I'm talking about could be just one rule for living. For part of being yourself is being authentic, speaking your own truth, and being present, being who you are now. Otherwise, others don't know who to relate to, who to attach to. They have to keep checking to see which one of yourselves showed up. It's especially true in a church community. When you are here, it's important to be yourself and expect others to be themselves too. Admittedly, sometimes ourselves are not all that attractive, but that's who we are right then. It'll change. After all, one of our UU principles is acceptance of one another. At the same time, being yourself doesn't mean ignoring those around you, or acting any way you choose, or saying whatever comes into your head without being called to account. I hope part of what we do for each other in community is to insist on the most mature and the most responsible behavior from each other. So my rule number 3 is be yourself. Rule number 4, ask for help. Most of us grew up being encouraged to be independent. We were expected to be able to take care of ourselves, to make our own decisions, to be strong, especially male kids. A lot of us grew up believing that asking for help was a sign of weakness. And yes, I know all the jokes about men not asking for directions. Well, in my family, it was when all else fails, then read the directions. It is true, most of us have gone through a stage of complete independence. So I see being able to ask for help as a sign of greater maturity. And equally important, being able to accept help as also a sign of maturity. As much as opposing thumbs and use of tools, being able to ask for help is what makes us human. And if you are going to follow the other rules, showing up, speaking the truth, and being yourself, there will be times when you have to admit that you are not perfect, that we're fragile, that we need help. This is especially true in a church community. We are not perfect. None of us is perfect. We are fragile human beings, regardless of our roles. We all have incomplete knowledge and skills. One of the lessons I learned early in my ministry was no matter what I talked about from the pulpit, no matter how much research I had done, someone in the congregation knew more about it than I did. One of them is turning pages. That's one of the reasons we get together in communities in the first place, to share our knowledge and skills and experiences with each other for the benefit of the whole. Just before we go to rule number 5, I want to take another Vonnegut moment to add another ask for help example. Another rule of church life I learned from an old curmudgeon years ago. I called him Mr. Negativity. He called me Dr. Positive. Anyway, this is the rule of congregational life that I learned from him. If a church job can be done by more than one person, it should be. That may not be the most efficient or effective way to do it, but is the most beneficial and rewarding way for the life of the community. Anyway, my rule number 4 is ask for help. Rule number 5, have faith, trust. Soul Matters' theme for March is trust, and Charlie's going to focus on that. There you are. Next week. It's hard to show up in your life. It's hard to speak the truth in love, to be yourself and ask for help if you don't have faith, if you don't trust that there will be a good outcome. We usually think of faith as transitive, needing an object to complete its meaning, as in faith in God or faith in humanity. And that is one legitimate type of faith, even for Unitarian Universalists. Most of us have faith in something. Maybe it is, for many of us, God. But if not in God, then in human goodness, or faith in the system, or the process of human interaction, or faith in the functioning of the universe. It's also possible to have faith without assigning it to an object. I can't prove that, but I have faith that it's true. Without faith, transitive or intransitive, how can you trust enough to let your weight down in the universe? The first goal of teaching someone to swim is to help them learn to trust that the water will hold them up. I believe that you have to have faith or trust in order to feel safe enough to ask for help, in order to feel safe enough to be yourself, in order to feel safe enough to speak the truth, in order to feel safe enough to show up in your life. And I believe that that is something we offer to each other in community, especially in a church community. If I see you having faith, if I see you trusting life, if I see you being comfortable and able to let your weight down and relax in the world around you, then I am encouraged to do the same. Sure, we have to develop our own faith by our own experiences with life, but we are affected by the work of the people around us. And I guess that's part of what I have faith in: the community, the church community, this church community, and each of us helping the others. Remember, we're all in this thing called life together, and we're all in the ministry of this church together. Have faith in its future. So my rule number 5 is have faith, trust. There you have them, my rules for living. I try to follow them. They interact with each other as I interact with the people around me. So as I finish this homily, I invite you to remember to show up in your life and this community, to speak the truth in love to each other and this community, to be yourself individually and as a congregation, to ask for help. That's what the rest of us are here for. And to have faith. Let your weight down and be at home in this community. We're all in this thing called life together. We're all in the ministry of this church together. Have faith in its future. I invite you to think about what your rules for living are. For now, so be it. Blessed be, Ashe, and Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Rod. Enjoyed that. The operation and outreach of our church needs your input and contributions. I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if one of the billionaires in the world would come by our church and say, I love it, let me give you some money. But on the other hand, I think we like being stewards of our own church. This way we are in charge. We can be our authentic selves. We can have faith in our church. So this is a perfect time to think about what you can give back. In a moment, the greeters will pass among you with the baskets. Please give generously. I'd like to remind you that the group we're supporting right now with our Change for Change is called the Dharma Horse Equine Sanctuary. Don't forget, if you have an idea for next year or the next terms, get in touch with their information on the back of your order of service to tell you how to suggest a group. You can put your change in the basket, or if you'd like, you can write a check or put money in an envelope and write that it's for Change for Change. But please be as generous as you can.
More
carrying on the theme of rules for living, my closing words are from the pen of Nancy Wood. Hold on to what is good, even if it is a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree which stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it is a long way from here. Hold on to my hand, even when I have gone away from you. So may it be, blessed be, Ashe, and Amen. I'm going to invite you to stand again, especially for this last song. It's number 16 if you have a hymnal. Joseph pronounce his name, Brackett, is the person who's from the Shaker tradition created this song. And I'm told that when he danced it, the ponytail behind him stood out because he was moving so fast. Right, Rich?
We're going to play it slower than that. Oh, now, okay.
Now, I'm done. I'll extinguish while you talk.
Okay. Just a second. Please join me as we say the words to extinguish our chalice. The words will be on the screen. But not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And I'd like to leave with these words. Think what a better world it would be if the whole world had cookies and milk at 3 o'clock every afternoon, and then lay down with our blankies for a nap. Or if all the governments had a basic policy to always put things back where they found them and to clean up their own mess.